The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I have my friend Derek here with us today, Derek Loudermilk. Hi, Derek. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you.
I think you were one of my early guests on this podcast, were you not? Right?
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
I was seeing you're up in the couple hundreds of episodes now.
Can you believe it? I know. I'm like, why am I still doing this? But I'm doing this because of conversations like we're about to have. So for anyone listening, I want to make this a big deal here. Derek and I met in a coaching program 6 years ago, 6.5, something like that, maybe 7 even. And here we are, still buddies in 2025. And I'm excited. I actually, for months, I've had your name on my list where I'm like, you know what? I need someone interesting who's just going to talk about some weird shit with me. Let me bring Derek on. Plus, it'd be a good time to catch up. And Derek and I have had some really good conversations over the years about the reality or quote reality that we're living in. So Derek, hi.
Hey, I'm excited to talk about wherever we can go.
Yeah. Do you want to make a little quick introduction? Like, who are you and what are you up to these days? It's funny. I'm like, I don't even really know because Derek always has his hands in a lot of things, which I love. Yeah. But what do you call yourself on the internet these days?
Well, I host a podcast as well. And you've been on my show, I believe, as well. Yeah. Yep. A lot of the work that I've been doing this year is combining modalities. Like I often weave in modalities with coaching, business coaching. And recently I've been weaving in a lot of stone medicine. So working with crystal elixirs, right? Charging water with specific consciousness, on the body layouts, doing land healing and earth grid work, and just going deep. I spent the last few years like really working with the stones and the minerals, and that's something that I have from other lifetimes as well. So like one thing I think that's happening in general is people are integrating lessons, skills from other lifetimes, parallel lives, or people are reactivating those memories. So that's kind of exciting for me to be doing that. And I was trained in QHHT, Dolores Cannon's technique, this year, and along with my wife, and we've teamed up. She's going to be the practitioner for QHHT, so we've been setting up that business to run together. And hearing some of I record the testimonials for her business, and like hearing the miracle healings that people have, or just the insights that they're getting right from they're getting insights from past lives and their higher self, and just the process of doing a deep dive into their own life history and patterns. Like then they begin to see all these patterns and stories, and why do I have this chronic thing? Well, it becomes quite obvious after a while, and then easier to address. So, those are some of the things that I've been up to recently.
Love it. And it's funny because, this year for me has been what is kind of like a sabbatical year, but it's not really. It's like a half-assed sabbatical, kind of a transitional year. And I've been doing the same thing and kind of feeling the same way, where it's like, I don't even call myself a business coach anymore, even though that's primarily what I'm doing. But just bringing in whatever comes through, like, okay, this client needs that, or this would be helpful, or take this essence. I love it. And I love that you bring up stone medicine. I want to talk about this. I had an experience with some stones, crystals. God, when was that? Like a year and a half ago? And I had always been kind of like one of those people that had crystals, and they would leave me a lot. Like I would bring them to the jungle and somehow lose all my crystals on a 9-day dieta, or like at Burning Man in my tent, somehow I lost all my crystals. So I finally was like, I don't think crystals like me. But then I've had some crystals over the years, and then I just had this really powerful experience last year, which got me connected to someone who does work with, I guess, stone medicine. I don't know if he calls it that, but with your astrology and your current transits, and working with particular crystals to support the transits that you're going through. So it's been super helpful. But yeah, tell me a little bit, what got you into stone medicine? What is it in particular? And then, how do you find that it supports you and your life and, the lives of others you work with?
Yeah. So there's like crystal healers, and I feel like those people are doing on the body layouts. They're like, I'm going to line up the colors of the crystals with the colors of the chakras, and that's kind of the basic of that. And stone medicine is a bit more expansive in a way, because like we learn all about the material that it's made of, like what are the traits of silica, of sulfur, of mercury, and how do they, like what is the consciousness of these, and how do they interact with the consciousness of humans, and how can they be allies, right? And then the treatment is, right, if they're your ally and they're programmable, quartz is like the most programmable, for example, are we going to do something where we're like placing them on acupuncture meridians and using them as acupuncture needles and activating energy lines in the body that way? Or my favorite is taking 2, 3, 4 raw, like the most pure form of the stone, like not polished, not cut, but like little bits of the raw stone, and making them into elixirs, and that in a way allows the frequency to get inside of your physical vessel. So I just did one with Lion's Gate, for example, and I would drink the elixir every morning for 8 days, starting on the Lion's Gate. Like first thing I do, get that into my system in the morning. And just as a means to like work with both the cosmic alignments and the stones to help deliver that in a way that I can sort of comprehend what it actually means. So if we presume there's a lot of data coming in because of the Lion's Gate, but do we know how to necessarily interpret that data? So I use it as a way to, gain the insights that the stones can facilitate of the larger sort of cosmic alignments, for example.
Actually, this is great because I have a gem elixir stone elixir that I had started. It was made for me and for something specific I was going through, and also aligned with transits. And it was actually a little too powerful for me. It was pretty intense. So I still have it. I preserved it with a little bit of alcohol, which, he said I could do. And once in a while I will take it, and I can truly feel it. It's pretty intense because it's about healing something that's already in the works. But wow. This makes me think of true alchemy, right? It's like these the substances of what these stones are made from. I actually had never thought about that, like really getting deep into the core of what it is and how to work with it and how to program it, right? And then what happens? So can you tell me, like, what is the experience of, let's say, when you take this during a time frame like the recent Lionsgate, was it 10 days ago or so?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, here, let me give you another example of someone one that I made for someone. She is running this quickly expanding organization that supports women, mothers, specifically with universal basic income. It's like they have pilot programs in several cities, and the organization is going into the like 8-figure range of how much is flowing through it. And she's speaking to a lot of donors and right, it's getting so large that she can't do one-to-one with things. But a big part of it is like how she uses her voice to speak the mission of the organization, but also to inspire action and to sell this to the donors, to like make them understand why it's good, all of these things, and to expand her capacity, right, for millions of dollars to flow through the organization also can be limited by your own physical capacity to hold light. And this can be intergenerational, like you could have a genetic component or a past life component that's impacting your ability to hold this kind of energy of a powerful organization. So we needed to sort of work on all those simultaneously. And stones, right, they can work on epigenetics, they can work on genetics, they can work on past life trauma, they can work on intergenerational stuff because they go to the deepest level. So all that had to be sort of woven into something very simple and straightforward. So it was primarily about her throat chakra and her ability to speak, but weaving in, like, calling all these pieces of herself back into an elixir. And so she'll take it like before important meetings, she'll take it when she's drafting parts of the website, for example, that talk about it. And she noticed, like, the first thing she told me was like, every time I speak now, people are just crying and feeling connected to their hearts. And that was her very clear, like, tangible, I see this working because I'm speaking how I wanted to speak about this, and I'm having the influence through my words how I wanted it to be. And so that just helped her tune into that version of herself that allowed those things to be possible.
Ooh, sign me up for that. Although I take a flower essence that helps with throat. But yeah, the gems, I'm curious, you said they go to the deepest places. Like, do you feel like they're the gems, the stones, like this earth medicine, like quite literal earth medicine, versus, let's say, a flower essence or even a spagyric? Have you ever worked with a spagyric? They're amazing.
No, what is that?
It's kind of an alchemical concoction, similar to a tincture and an essence, where instead of a tincture, they might just extract from a plant or, something else. This is a multi-layered process where they, let's say, do an extraction, and then they take the plant matter and burn it, and then they take the ashes and, add that to I don't even know the whole process. It's kind of like, it's using the whole, all the elements of alchemy to then make a, liquid that you work with just like any other tincture or essence or like maybe a gem elixir. But the ones I've worked with have been super powerful. But I don't know much about it other than that. But
yeah,
I'm wondering,
it's like,
why gems?
I mean, there is a medicine, right, for each level. Yeah. And the way that I think of it is like plants and at the same time pharmaceuticals, right? They're working on the biology of the person, like the organism in a way, and stones, because they're can be billions of years old, right? And they even have these properties that exist outside of space-time as we know it. They function at a different level. So like if you have problems that are long-term issues, that is, they've been around for decades, or they've been around for lifetimes, or they've been around for generations, these are the types of things you would address with stones.
That's what I've been working with my stone elixir, with some like multi-generational trauma stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it can be, stones have the ability to call back in pieces. So soul retrieval, or like reintegrating fractals that have split off because of either you've been even doing like slight, my friend explained it to me this way, was if you're slightly dishonest for yourself or in your actions, then you'll create this like small fractal that like goes off into a separate timeline. So and that's leaking power the whole time that you're creating these little fractal versions of yourself. So to consolidate your power, right? Your soul exists like full power. And really what's happening is we've created like all these leaks. Oh, balloons. Hello. all these power leaks that happen in the course of being human. But to call these all back, then people say like you need to rise to your power, and all these phrases that are kind of like, what does that actually mean? It just means like having the totality of yourself present, so that you can actually work with what you really come with.
Wow. I love that. That's true. It's like these cliche things, and no one even understands how to do it. Of course, telling someone to rise into your power, if they're not in their power, they don't know how to rise into their power, right? I was actually just telling someone about you the other day, and I was saying how I think this was a year ago or 2 years ago, you went on this mission to try out pretty much every modality there was. Was that what it was? Tell me a little bit, because I know you were posting about it and sharing about it.
Yeah, I realized after a while that I was on this quest. I had done 50 or 60 different healing modalities, and it started when we were traveling full time, and I was going to these sacred sites and meeting holy people and gurus and you name it, all over the world. And then I was like, well, let me try to, because I am trained as a scientist, so I was like, let me try to have some sort of make this like a quest, an experiment, a quantification of some kind, so that I can use these. Because what I was doing was I would go and I would try some modality, some healing modality or some divination modality, like you're trying to get better guidance or better information, or you're trying to just operate more smoothly in the world. And I was using this with a lot of entrepreneurs. How can we use magic, like applied metaphysics, applied magic and enlightenment to business or organizations or whatever it is? And so I was, at this point I've done more than that, but it was 108 different modalities, from the healing side of things, to the manifesting side of things. And just learning what I now see is like the physics of how the extra dimensional physics works. Because the material world is sort of a side effect of all that. So that's really fun, and I made a TV show about it. Season 1 is on New Reality TV, and we're going to be starting eventually. I don't know exactly when, but season 2, where I'll actually be like taking people along with me as I go to different sacred sites or have cool experiences with people. So yeah, that's kind of the vision of that for myself.
Fun. Yeah, that looked really fun. I actually wonder, I should make a list of everything I've tried and see how many modalities I've tried in my life, because it feels like a lot.
Well, it's cool. Once I published my list, people are like, oh, I've done a lot of those. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And maybe some just seem like, oh, it's just so normal. I don't even think about it. But so then I'm curious, now that you've tried a lot, and then for a while you were before the telepathy tapes came out, you were talking about telepathy and teaching classes with Dita Young, right?
With Dita.
Dita. And then now you've studied QHHT, you're into stone medicine, of course you're doing other work. Are these the ones that you've gone and studied recently, or really dove into, or studied with this shamanic teacher of yours that we both know? Is it that you found that those were the most effective for you, or for everybody in general, or just the ones that are feeling alive for you now? Like why these particular modalities that you've leaned into recently?
Yes, some are definitely like daily tools that I would use. So I don't know, one, for example, like EFT tapping, I would use whenever I'm in a tight spot, right? Whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed with the situation, then I'll just pull that out and get a handle on that so I can move forward. So that's just like, okay, we'll use it when we need it. Others, like connecting with the elements, and so every morning, like I'll go stand outside barefoot on the grass, greet the sun, greet the directions, greet the elements, and there's a consciousness to the sun, to the moon, to the air, to the water, all these things. So forming a relationship with those things is a foundational element, right? My kids go out and when I can get them to go with me, they'll come out and get some sun in their eyes first thing and all that stuff. For something like QHHT, for example, a lot of people have read Dolores's books, right? She had done so much for the expansion of consciousness here. And what's really cool is she discovered, at first they were doing hypnosis for quitting smoking. Then they discovered past lives, and they're like, oh, wow, that's fascinating. And it was overwhelming to them in the 70s. Like, they didn't know what past lives or other lifetimes were. And so they were real pioneers, and they were getting the data, the information that they could handle at the time. And through decades, right now, they understand what the densities are and the dimensions and the galactic history of how souls make their way to Earth, and all these things she learned through tens of thousands of hypnotherapy sessions. And then after a couple of decades, the higher self started coming in. So they didn't even know about the higher self. And then it started coming in and directing this healing. And that's where the quantum in QHHT comes from, is like the higher self can, if you've learned your lesson and if the circumstances are appropriate, you can ask and it will just heal you. So Heidi last week was working with a woman, and they were like, she doesn't need this breast cancer anymore. And they just took it away. And it's like, oh, and this other woman had, scoliosis, right? Her spine is crooked, and it just physically like stretched her out and just made it straight, right then and there. And it was like, the chiropractor just, so the power of the higher self to make dramatic physical changes, instantaneous changes, is amazing. And understanding like how we got here. Why did I have cancer? Like, what is the consciousness of this lesson, right, that shows up? And people have talked about that. Louise Hay had mapped all that stuff out, like
Barbara Brennan.
But yeah, it's such amazing, like what can be accomplished in a single QHHT session.
I've only had one of these, and it was 3 years ago, I think. And it was powerful. It was a couple hours long, but then I have heard from others that it is actually longer than that. Is that true? Like it's supposed to be like 4 hours or 6 hours or something?
Well, a big part of it is you spend as much time as it takes learning about their life. So their relationships, all, like their childhood, right? Because a lot of these are going to give you clues when you're navigating the actual session. You'll start to see where things are coming from. But you have to know their history well enough to ask the right questions of the higher self to guide through the session properly. So that takes a few hours. It can, if people are real talkers, and the older the person is, right, the more the personal history they have a lot of times. So then the actual hypnosis session itself is a couple hours, and then when they come out, a lot of times they remember a little bit, and so you're like, well, what do you remember? Tell me what you remember, and I'll tell you some more, fill in the session for you, and it's recorded so they can go back and listen, right? It's like they're channeling for themselves, so they go back and get more each time. But yeah, it take all day if it needs to. Wow. Yeah.
And the idea is that you are developing a relationship with this part of yourself, like whether it's a past life or a ancestor or something. I mean, it is essentially, we're all one consciousness, right? I mean, I don't know. I've been talking to people about this recently because I'm a training I'm in. This has come up a lot, and I was like, well, it's all one consciousness, so we can separate it into these times of past life, but it's not a past life because it still exists now. Is that how they approach it in this modality?
Well, what's interesting is that like you can sort of figure out in chronological time when they're existing, like if they're in the Middle Ages in a castle, like you can tell, right? The higher self is sort of in charge of what life it's showing you. Like it could show you life on another planet, or it could show you in between lifetimes. This one woman had a life as a dolphin, and the reason they're getting shown these lives is because there's a practical application for it's not just curiosity. We're going to show you this so we can show you, here's a theme that you actually learned and understood that you need to come back to right now and weave into your present moment, right? Because we're still focused on like living our present lives here in the 3D. So it's cool to understand like how the higher self works and how it chooses to show different things to a person.
Wow. Yeah, this is really interesting because I'm thinking about, so for example, in 2015, I got a really bad injury. By 2016, I had insights into what it meant. You know, it wasn't just an injury. It was something much deeper than that. And then it started a journey into addressing the underlying, which was a ancestral patterning issue, and how it was manifesting in my life. So it wasn't just a physical injury. It was so much deeper than that. It was like a pattern that was carried throughout my ancestry that led to perpetual, like, you know, suffering, essentially. It wasn't that bad. I was still living life okay. But I would say it's taken about 10 years to finally like witness it unravel, like even with the knowing of the consciousness of, okay, what did that mean? And now what do I have to look at and like start to develop a new relationship with? Because I only lived life a certain way until there was that awareness that came up. And then I was like, oh, wow, I need to look at this. And even though I knew about it the whole time, I've been chipping away. And it's, you know, it's progressed and progressed. But how is there like an instantaneous change when, let's say something like that, like it showed me, I got a very clear direction and exact insight into what it was and what needed to be addressed, but then it didn't instantly heal. And by the way, the injury itself, like the physical manifestation of the injury, I would say has only just healed this year. Like it still lingers here and there. It comes back once in a while. It's not a big deal anymore, but it's kind of wild how it's like, it's been like an unraveling. How can QHHT just like, if I had QHHT back in 2015, would it have just...
Well, it's imagine it like a team up between you and your higher self, right? Mm-hmm. So your higher self can do its part, and if it feels you're ready, it could remove some pain or injury right there on the spot, right? It could unbreak your bones. It could dissolve tumors, whatever, right? Anything is possible. But it's also about you, like the people that aren't ready for that to go away, they'll just bring it right back, which has happened as we've studied like different case studies, right? So if your higher self thinks you've learned a lesson, but consciously you're in a pattern, for example, and you keep going back and unlearning the lesson, it could linger. But I think you did such a phenomenal job, because patience is for these really long-term things. Like, we're used to things happening at the speed that we want them to, because the package is going to arrive from Amazon tomorrow. But if something has been, like you said, intergenerational, it's something that to chip away at is probably the proper speed in order to chew through the issue and understand each piece as it's uncovered, and to get the complete resolution and integration of the whole picture. So I think, you know, not rushing it and being patient and actually having it take a decade is totally fine, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting in these modalities. I mean, you did say the word integration, which is great, because, you know, it's a process. It's like, okay, your whole life, and the way your approach and perspective, in some cases, like in that case, by the way, it wasn't just an injury. It was like I had to literally see my entire life in a different way after, you know, living however many years that was back then. 10 years ago. What is that? Oh my God. Like 38 years, you know, 38 years of life. It was like, oh, okay. How do I do life then this new way? And for some people, it's not an instantaneous process. I also wonder, because I've been studying transformational neuro-linguistic programming, where it's kind of a similar modality. It's a different approach. It's similar to a lot of these like hypnosis, past life regressions. There is a certain approach to the change work, but in the end, it's kind of like the spiral, the upward spiral, where it's like, oh yeah, it might come around, but it gets better and better. And if there's not a deep change in the patterning of, let's say, the beliefs or the subconscious around it, like it's very hard for a human to change, right? Because like they might say, oh, I want the cancer gone. Oh, I really want the cancer gone. But then maybe there's a part of their not conscious that doesn't want it gone. So does QHHT deal with that? You know, it's like the higher self maybe wants you to, like the human self wants to be free of cancer. The higher self says it's possible, but then there's something else operating in the background that's stabilizing the cancer, like not going away for a reason.
Like if a lot of cancers are based in hatred and anger, and if you're dredging that up but not being present and flowing through those experiences, like if you're just sort of cycling them, then you could recreate the physical conditions of that. You brought up something in terms of patterning and beliefs and all these things. One of the tricks that I try to do for myself, and I find it works for other people as well, and this is sort of from the reality transurfing perspective of where there's like something that you're involved with, like each thing you're participating in has its own consciousness, and it can, like, has a feedback loop. They call them pendulums in reality transurfing, but it's like, if you participate in the news, for example, or if you participate in whatever it is, worrying about this or that, it's going to actually increase the engagement. Like as soon as you start giving attention, it's going to pull you more into that thing. So it could be your own view of your past, like what an incident meant to you and the story that you have about yourself. And as you pay attention to it, it gives it momentum, right? It continues the pendulum swinging. So in order to avoid the existing momentum of these things, these bits of consciousness that create our material world, you kind of have to duck and dodge and be unpredictable, right? So being adventurous, and I spent so many years like thinking about adventure, being adventurous and doing things differently, responding in unpredictable ways, just kind of being a bit of a wild card is one of the best ways to break the pendulum and its influence on you. So that's kind of fun. It's just to like brainstorm, like how would I normally respond in this situation? And then what are some other like fun and unpredictable ways I could respond to this?
I love it. And that's where I think, I said this to a client earlier today. I think a lot of people they have a hard time getting out of their comfort zone to do something adventurous and do a different response. I remember for me, there was a point in my business where a former partner said to me it was quite literally like, well, if you've been doing it this one way and it's not working the way you want, you should just try the opposite way. And I was like, oh my God, but that's not going to work. But then it's like the other thing wasn't working. So then, okay, what would happen if I do the polar opposite? And that's when everything started working. And it was that, like, it was so uncomfortable to try something polar opposite different, but it was also like the definition of insanity. I was doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results and getting the same results. But you said something interesting that I've been talking about, and I think many people believe this. As above, so below. If you look at the world today, at least maybe the people we talk to in America right now, and I hear so much like in the narratives, there's a lot of narratives going on about X, Y, or Z. And sometimes I hear things and I'm like, are we just creating this happening? Like people are saying, America's going down and we're on the brink of a civil war, or the whole thing is going to implode, or, anarchy, chaos, the crash of the entire planet, like everything's crumbling and then we're creating the new earth, which I think on some level we all know to be true. And how much of this is all of us creating this together because we are focusing all of our attention on it? And by the way, I tend to be one of the people, yes, I see that, but I tend to focus more of my attention on what I'm creating that's like in the positive realm. Like oh, well, here's the world I want to see. I'm going to try to put my attention on that instead of the world that I live in that I don't like. Of course, people then call it spiritual bypassing. I disagree, but yeah, how on like a larger level can this apply to human consciousness and the world that we're in?
Yes, great question. I think foundationally, having the awareness that we are creating the material world billions of times a second, right? This is now proven science that won the Nobel a few years ago, right? That it's not locally real, but we're collapsing the waveform into the physical. And so just having this awareness, right? That like, usually we're creating the same thing. This room is the same as it was when we started the podcast, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be the same. And that goes back to the quantum effects. Like something can be instantaneously created differently. But you are directing the creation, and we're all co-directing the creation. And so if a agenda can capture people's attention in one direction or another, they will co-participate in the creation of that fruition. And when I realized like a lot of that stuff like really didn't apply to me, it made it much easier to, I don't know exactly when this happened, some years ago, but I don't feel participating in the world the same way anymore. Like I see that that's going on, but it's like it doesn't apply to me in a way, because I'm actively trying to tune in to like what is the mission of what I'm doing in this lifetime, and what's my contribution going to be, and all of those things. So yeah, eventually it sort of becomes irrelevant, the physical, like what you're observing physically in the world, because you're just doing like what you can do, and the world is going to shift around you. What's interesting, if you look at David Hawkins' work, right, in Power versus Force, right, and he showed through, a lot of it was based on muscle testing and confirming the data he was getting, but he showed, right, like a person holding a certain level of consciousness of pure unconditional love, for example, and weaving it into their life, would be influencing, I think it was like 180,000 people who are at a different, level of, let's say, a consciousness of, like just acceptance, right? They're not yet to unconditional love, but they've come past fear and things like that. That can have such an effect. So some of the most important work you can do is just to go be around people and try to maintain your state. And we feel this. It's so funny. We have a commute to drop our kids to school, and we drive past this huge hospital complex in order to get there. It's like skyscrapers of hospitals that we're going through, and it's the biggest employer in the city. And I feel like the reason, part of our deployment here to this city is to like do this daily drive where we're like bringing in this frequency node to this hospital system twice a day, and it's like, it can be very draining just driving this like half a mile stretch past all these hospitals. But it's like, okay, if that's our contribution, is to like keep resetting what's going on here, then we'll do it.
Wow. I love that. That's a great perspective. It's funny because I think some people might hear this and say, well, that's all spiritual bypassing. But it's interesting for those that have really studied how consciousness and this creation works. I actually do believe like we have a conscious choice as humans. I've talked about this with my teachers. I mean, we had a discussion last year in my training about the Holocaust. Oh, well, was that created by humans? Well, yeah, it actually was. And we were all in on it because it is the consciousness of what was created on Earth. And yes, we can point the fingers at maybe some bad guys, and I do believe that, but at the same time, it's kind of like the soul initiation on some level. But we have a choice every moment, and you actually explain what I feel like I've been experiencing for many years, actually, Where, of course, I still get caught up in the grief of the world and I'm still upset. It's not like I'm ignoring everything happening in our, reality. But at the same time, I don't live my day to day from this perspective of being pulled so into it that I'm affected by it. And I actually believe, because I see it around a lot, and I'm like, I actually feel like it's really detrimental to what we're trying to create. And of course, like you said, I can only focus on what my own, destiny is here and my own purpose, which is what I've been doing, is like every time that I get like even lost a little bit, it's like, come back to that center of like, well, all I can do is, as one of my head teachers had said years ago, be the Zen gardener and plant your own seeds. Like, I'm planting my garden, tending to my garden, planting my seeds of what I want to create and what I want to see. But it's interesting sometimes to feel like I can look at the chaos of the world around, or the distraction of the media, or like just the news that is shown to me when I open Facebook. I mean, it's shocking. I don't even know where it comes from. I'm like, I don't even watch this stuff. Where do they find me to show this to me? Like, just the weirdest things. But I feel like it's almost like, that's where I think it's like a muscle that we have to work. Like, you have a choice to get sucked into it and brought down, especially like vibrationally down. I know someone who's really been struggling with this and then just drinks a lot and doesn't sleep and then is overweight, and like, it's the downward spiral. Or, you can look at it, feel the feelings, process through the grief, do whatever your practice is to move through, but then like move that energy to be the force of creation, driving through an annoying complex every day, I mean, do they talk about this in some of these modalities that you've studied, like how we can actually maybe try to apply this to the globe? Like, I mean, what is your view on how we can use this as like individuals together, to maybe create the new world that we're all trying to create?
Well, one experiment that I ran for several years was like a manifestation experiment, which in the group healing, group prayer research, Lynn McTaggart found that 8-person groups, Power of 8 is her book, where she talks about this research. 8-person healing groups, like they could focus on the healing of a individual and to, again, like heal cancer or eczema or who knows what, right? They found it to be very effective, but they also found a rebound effect, so that the people that were intending for the healing of the receiver were experiencing even more healing than the receiver themselves. So it's like, right, it's better to give than to receive kind of thing. And so we tried that with, well, what if we can do this for people's missions, their organizations, their businesses? And let's say they want to launch a new thing, and first you have to like get everyone on board, right? It has to be like, we want this to exist for the whole collective because it's an amazing project. We see the vision and we want that for you and we want that for all of us. So then, right, you send the intention and you end up, and for 3 years, I think we had like a 100% track record within a month, right? The thing that they wanted, getting on TV, launching a business, getting opportunity, whatever it was, finding a business partner, would come to fruition. And we would often get precognitive insights. Like the intenders would often get like, oh, I see that you're going to be on this type of stage or wearing this, or here's the type of person you're going to meet. They would even say like, you're going to be on stage with so-and-so. And that's what would happen. So they would start seeing how this would all actually come. So there is, like these collective intention ways to start manifesting things. There's another part of your question. I can't remember it at the moment, but that's what came up for me.
Yeah.
Was that little experiment we ran.
Like if we all start doing groups that can be intentional on the world that we're creating, or like in your life, just.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to relate was, so I got the insight, the guidance, the calling to do this land healing project along the Mississippi River Valley. Because I thought, okay, water has this amazing consciousness. If I can start changing the programming of the water to just like bring peace and harmony to my city, which has a lot of violent crime? Like, what if people were drinking water charged with peace, right? As just part of the like municipal water system. Yeah. So I went to all the major confluence rivers along the Mississippi River Valley, the Ohio, the Illinois, the Missouri, the Mississippi, the Merrimack, all these rivers, and then installed grids there to sort of act as a consciousness filter, right? And like giving respect to the rivers as they would come by and saying like, can we revert to like the purest state of peace and have the waters come and influence the land as they pass by and the people as it passes by and all these things. And I didn't know exactly how to do that. So I was like asking people, I was asking the stones, I was asking the river, I was asking the land, like, how do I do this? What do I do? What do I say? Should I drum? Should I dance? Should I sit in silence? And all these things. And when it's kind of like your story about slowly figuring out the healing of this thing, when you're focusing on a project like that, takes your attention away from like whatever else may be going on, right? If you have a clear framework that you're trying to achieve and you get this guidance or mission and you follow along the adventure, then you're just going to ignore the local news or whatever is happening, because your mission, or this aspect of your mission, right, is like it's more ample than the daily things, right? So there's like the day-to-day, go to work, get the groceries, et cetera, and then there's like, what am I really doing here in this lifetime? How am I contributing? What am I actually learning? Maintaining that higher perspective of contribution and lessons is a big part of it, I think, as well. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's it. You know, I look around and there's no judgment here, but certain people that I know that just have kind of no, as they call it, no beacon in life, where it's like just kind of floating with no vision, no purpose, just kind of going through the motions. Yeah, they do tend to be in a little more suffering than the people I know that have at least some kind of, like I said, like your little garden where you're planting your seeds. Doesn't matter what it is, you know, even if it's just making art, something that's beyond you and your own personal like gain. It's like service to other versus service to self. I'm curious, you know, with a teacher I was working with last year, we did a lot of work actually on the land and the waters, and a lot of healing. And I would call it kind of a shamanic teacher. We just never used that word ever. He was not a fan of that word, but that's essentially what it was. How did you feel? Like, did you notice a difference in the vibration of the water in your area, or the people, or like any downloads you got from doing that healing project, which, by the way, is very beautiful and very inspirational. I remember when you were doing it, and we have some really beautiful waters around here. And my friends and I, anytime we're going to like just take a dunk in the water or swim in the water, it becomes this ceremonial prayer, because it's like we are charging this water with our intentions. But so anybody, the ocean, going to the beach, your pool, whatever it is, I mean, it's there's light codes in this water. But anyways, whole other thing. But yeah, what came about from that project?
I mean, it was cool to notice the response, like the animals, the wind, the water would respond in real time as I was doing these ceremonies in the place. So that was like good confirmation for me, just to like see a little like wink from the nature, you know? Wow. Because otherwise I felt pretty incompetent when I was starting. Like, what am I doing here, right? But that's just the thinking mind.
Yeah, exactly. There's no one right way, right? It's all about just the goodness of our heart that comes through, you know, like laying a little flower down. I always say, the very least, someone taught me this, my friend Susanna taught me it many years ago, take a piece of your hair. We always have that with us. I think most people, not everybody has hair, but you know, take a piece of hair, hold it to your heart, and give it as an offering. Super simple. It doesn't, you know, I always say this whole path of spirituality doesn't have to be this whole like, you know, the show and the garb and the right clothes and the freaking feather fan and whatever people have. I mean, if anything, I've moved more. I mean, I was kind of never into all of the, as I call it, the showy stuff, because I believe that It's the path of simplicity. It's the path of the heart. Of course, yes, there are tools that help and do certain things, and they're amazing. And if you're coming with the right intentions, like, there is no right or wrong way, right? It's just so funny, this world. I just laugh because the psychedelic space will have people in all the different things and all the garbs, and then they're just a mess, right? So
it's almost, it gets, so simple. It's kind of boring. I still get, part of the reason I work with crystals as well is because I love beautiful artifacts, and I love, I collect other artifacts from artisans, right? And those become not just pieces of art, but actual spiritual tools. And I like having all that stuff. You can't really see it, but all behind me is all the things from around the world where I have special things they become connected with beings, right? That associate with those. And then I form the relationship with the beings, and I work with the beings to do certain things. And then it becomes a fun thing, but it's a lot of stuff. Can be.
I want to ask you about, if you have time, do you have like 5 to 10 more minutes, 8 more minutes? One last thing.
Yep.
Okay. You were mentioning the Psy Games, which, by the way, I had not heard about. And you said something, we were chatting on text earlier today about, it was like the future of psychic abilities and different healing abilities, which, by the way, I've been saying this for years, and I believe we're so going in that direction where, especially as the world of AI and like the internet is changing, and I do believe all of this is going to change, and we're going to be really tapped into the energy field way more. And I already believe we are. I don't know about you. I totally see the difference from, a few years ago, 10 years ago. It's a huge difference in how quick things are, like moving, like, I hate to use the word manifesting, but it's like just the ability to create, the energy, like the tapped in ness of many people. It just feels like so much more prominent than it was, even 5 or 10 years ago. And my teachers, by the way, have confirmed that. They say compared to 30, 40 years ago, it's like a completely different world. But yeah, what is the Psy Games, and what were you saying about this kind of topic?
Yes, super cool. It's the first ever Psychic Olympics.
Oh my God, I love it.
So they're events, and this just happened like, I think a week ago, maybe.
I'm gonna look this up.
And it just showed up on my YouTube, but it's been something that I was planning to do something similar. So I'm glad they're doing it. Telekinesis or psychokinesis, moving objects, right, with the mind. The mind, like seeing blindfolded. Like I taught my kids to read blindfolded and stuff. So it's like how quickly they can do certain tasks blindfolded. So it's like a timed competition, or there's a remote viewing accuracy competition. Cool. I can't remember what the other ones are, but I think, right, because these are all basic human skills, but like athletics, some people may be more naturally gifted, or they may train harder, or they may perfect their talent, right? And so this is cool. It's like a game version of these talents that we had, like a spelling bee or a math competition, right? But it's cool to see like just how far people can take these skills, and I like it. It's, in a way, it's like, here's the ego of I got really good at this skill, which was just showy. It's just a trick, right? But I think it's inspiring as well to see how far we can push these things, because it gets me excited about what's possible when I see someone, like I was watching on, I think, TikTok or something, but a guy pushing down a whole wall of bricks with psychokinesis. Like, that's the heavier and bigger things get. Like, for example, I do a lot of spoon bending with people. I always teach people to spoon bend, and probably more than half the people can spoon bend on their first try, which is great. But I want to bend rebar. I want to bend something that's so strong I could never bend it with, like, I couldn't jump on it to bend it. Wow. But if I can activate it and connect with it, it will bend for me. It will bend. I will bend as the rebar, like some rebar yoga, right? So that would be exciting, right? Because it interrupts, it shocks the mind to such a degree that you're like, oh, I have to believe that that's possible because I saw it right there with my own eyes, and maybe I can do that. What's possible for me?
Yeah. I always tell this story of how, I mean, I've seen wild things over the years where there's no doubt that any of this is possible. And of course, ancient wisdom, I mean, this is written in history. It's like, well, how did they create X, Y, and Z? And you go to some of these sacred sites and there's like, perfect alignment of these, we don't even have to talk about that. But I had one experience at Burning Man one year. I think it was in 2014 or I think it was 13, 14 or 15 where, and I was sober, I will say that. I witnessed thinking that I needed something, and it was very minor. It was just something in my tent where I was like, okay, I need to get that thing. And I witnessed it like jump into my lap. From not like there was no one. Yeah. But I for anyone that's been to a place like especially Burning Man, there is a lot of manifestational energy there. I mean, especially those years that I went. I don't know how it is now. The last time I went, I feel like it had changed. I hate to say that, but I really do. But, back in that year, those years when I think this happened, it was either 13, 14, or 15. It's like 70,000 people coming together. Back then, there were no electronics working. No one had their phones out. There was no EMFs in the way. And it truly was an energy of just pure love. Like it was I would believe those were like, and maybe before that were the height of the Burning Man days where it was just pure love. Now it's changed a little. Now there are phones. Now there's satellites. Now there's, it's a different energy. There's a lot more electronics and things that people just buy on Amazon. And back then it was all creative energy. And when I had this happen to me, I remember I was like kind of in shock and I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I'm sober. And it was a weird feeling to experience like, because I looked at it, I wanted it, I gave some intention to it, and it was a very minor thing. And then it just came to me and it was like, oh, okay, well, that's how manifestation works. Like, why not my eyeliner or whatever? It was some makeup piece. But I had witnessed different versions of that over and over and over that year and the year prior and the year after. And then it kind of started slowing down the other years I went. But, I do believe like anything is possible. And, the bending spoon thing, very interesting. By the way, I would love to try that out. You do this online? Can you teach people to bend spoons online?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We did it for my birthday party a couple of years ago where we got the whole party to bend spoons, and it works better, right, as a group.
There you go.
It's fun.
The energy,
it's fun.
right?
Because you look around and you see other people doing it, like, I can do that.
Well, anyways, I don't want to keep you because I know you have school and the kids and all these things going on. But before we go, I'll have to bring you back because I have so many more questions about fun things you're up to. But, I know you're potentially moving. I know you have some online work. I know you've been doing these kind of shorter little programs. But yeah, what are you up to? What's next? Like any books coming through? What are you guys up to next?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we'll be moving to Sedona eventually next year, which is like they call it Grand Central Station. It's like a lot of things go through Sedona. Mm-hmm. Let's so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, and just continuing to push the limits on what I can discover: crystals, water, weaving everything into business coaching, and helping my wife get her practice off the ground. And my son is now my podcast editor. My 8-year-old is my YouTube and podcast editor.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I taught him that over the summer. So that's super fun.
Oh my God.
You sure can.
No way.
Yeah.
That's funny. I told my nephews years ago, I was like, I'll hire you if you want to learn how to make videos. And of course, they just make their own
It's getting easier and easier.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, my YouTube channel is Derek Loudermilk.
So good.
On YouTube, derekloudermilk.com is the website. And a lot of stuff flows through there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you send some good emails and you're always up to really interesting stuff. I've always had fun. And yeah, one of these days, I know for years, it was like, join my telepathy class, but I was always too busy. But one of these days, I'll do it.
Well, maybe you should, and then we can compete in the side games next year.
Oh my God, I don't want to compete. I've thought about trying to hone in, and sometimes my psychic abilities really freak me out. I know I should be excited by them, but like this summer I had an experience where I was like, you know what? I need to take it down a notch because it's actually starting to get to me. You know, because it's like if it's moving faster than I'm emotionally able to handle, because there's a few things that are just a little like challenging for me because I'm like, I'm not ready for that. I can't handle it. But I probably can, or else it wouldn't be manifesting, right?
A lot of people do that. They have it turned on fully when they're younger, and then they get overwhelmed. They're like, I don't want to go to the grocery store and hear everybody thinking about all the food that they're going to eat, because then I get confused. Do I actually want to eat that food? Or is that that you know, overweight person that's thinking about that? So, it's like dialing it in properly.
And yeah, I feel like it'll be interesting to see in our future people that are teaching this to children, at least to understand it, because I was one of those children where I started having some things that I can only now make sense out of, but back then I couldn't make sense out of it, and I had no one to talk to, and I just thought, at first you think it's just like normal that everybody's having the same experience, and then you realize maybe it's not normal, and then you feel weird, and then you feel like an outcast, and then it's like, and then later in life, you're like, oh, okay. So
kids all know that it's normal. It's just the adults used to be like afraid.
You're crazy. Shut up. Don't say that. Yeah. I know, right? The programming, shut it down a little, but then you can't shut it down. It's always there. But so much potential, so many good things. Thank you so much for being with us. I can't wait to visit you in Sedona, maybe run a retreat in Sedona. I do love Sedona. I've been talking about going back there for a long time just to hang out and visit. And one of my second UFO sightings was asking to see a UFO in Sedona and then seeing it here in my house the day after I got back.
Oh, fun. Oh, cool.
Very interesting. I was like, wow. And I actually have one of the UFO capitals of the US is like 20 minutes from my house. So,
interesting.
Yeah. Anyways,
cool.
Derek.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you so much. Tell the
Always
family I say hi. And
right.
Yes, we'll have you on again soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.